Cool, guys. All right. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna read my story idea to you because I went ahead and I did it to make sure that it actually works, right? So I'll read mine to you, and then I'll discuss like how I thought about what I'm trying to do in the story, right? And then what I'll do is I will as soon as this is what I'm gonna try and do today, right? As soon as I'm finished reading this, I'll share with you the idea. If you haven't got a story idea, you can just use that. All right. We'll just have to go with that. All right. Hopefully, like, I mean, it's better if you have your own, but hopefully you'll see, I think it's not bad, right? It's not a bad idea. All right, cool. I'll read it to you and then you'll see. So this is what we're going to try and do today. Okay. So story spine. So the story spine goes like this. It's like at first and then until, and because of this and because of this until finally. This is like the Pixar story structure. And the reason why I want you guys to do this is to make sure your story has coherence. In other words, it has a logic, right? So it's not just like random things that happen, but every event is the result of it's a consequence of something else, right? And that's what you guys need to be thinking about in your stories. And so even for example, okay, we'll go through it, right? So mine says, at first, in a dystopian future where humans and machines coexist, a highly intelligent teenage girl's parents run a struggling orphanage. Their tireless dedication to caring for other children, though noble, ironically leaves their own daughter feeling neglected and longing to escape to university for a fresh start. And then her daily life is filled with distance and petty arguments with her parents. She hides away in her room, listens to music, sneaks out with her friends, and acts out in small rebellions. One day, a furious argument with her parents while driving to university leads to a car accident, and she's tragically killed. And because of this, she's revived as an AI replica by her grieving parents. Experiencing her new existence with greater empathy and clarity, she feels compelled to atone for how she treated her parents, and seeks to make things right. And because of this, she struggles to fit into society as an AI and notices robot police repressing humans and troublemaker robots. Her parents still deeply love her, but are troubled by the strangeness of her new form, the sense that she is both entirely their daughter and yet more with superhuman abilities. They wrestle with the questions over her true identity and the heavy knowledge that in bringing her back, they may have crossed moral boundaries that cannot be undone. When she uncovers a plot by the Syndicate, a powerful AI community planning to eradicate humanity, she realizes the danger and unites a rebel army of humans and rogue AIs to resist. Until finally, in a climactic battle, she infiltrates the heart of the Syndicate. Using her unique ability to merge consciousness, she fuses her mind with the Syndicate's core. At the cost of her own existence, she disables the Syndicate from within. Before disappearing forever, she delivers a farewell message to humanity and to her parents, speaking of the importance of forgiveness, empathy, unity, and kindness between all beings. All right, cool. So the first thing I want you guys to understand, right, is that this story that I've written, right, it's inspired by, or this story that the idea that I've come up with, it's inspired by, I realized that it's really sort of like an amalgamation of a lot of stories that I'm interested in, right? Amalgamation meaning it's like I've mixed a lot of ideas from stories that I like, that I don't watch a lot of TV. I hardly have time for TV, to be honest with you. But these are the ones that have stuck in my memory, from like when I was a kid, right? So it's partly based on like Terminator, and that's what made me think today. I'm not really that happy with this thing here about the fact that her parents run an orphanage, that she's upset about that. Although it's not bad, but I was thinking today, for example, in Terminator 2, what happens is that his mother, the protagonist's mother, destroys an AI robot. That AI robot was trying to assassinate her, because she would then give birth to John Connor, who would become the leader of the resistance against the machines. So this machine travels back in time to try to assassinate her, and she defeats it just by the skin of her teeth, but she does it. And the way this happens is that there's a chase that happens, and they end up in like a factory. And then somehow they end up in this machine, and the AI is like practically indestructible. But they end up in this place where there's like this press, right? These machine presses, and she manages to press the robot, right? And she destroys it. And then what happens is that there's a cover up, right? So they cover this thing up. Like the authorities hide the situation. And she tries to tell everybody, look, there are these machines, and everybody thinks she's crazy. They put her in a mental asylum, right? And so John Connor, he grows up with foster parents, and he's so rebellious against them. He's rebellious because He doesn't have his mom. His dad was actually also a resistance fighter as well, and he got killed. So he doesn't exist. And his mother is in an asylum. He actually thinks that she is actually mad. He thinks she's mad. And so he's just bitter. He's just really, really bitter, right? And so I was thinking actually that with my one, instead of the daughter being upset that they're running an orphanage, what I was thinking is that she could like, and the reason I'm going through this is because I want you guys to think about stories that you like as well and how they might inspire your own ideas, right? So, for example, instead of them running an orphanage, what I was thinking is that the mother could have been arrested by the authorities because she apparently attacked one of the AI robots. In this society, they live together. So she could have been arrested for that as a troublemaker. And in that society, you're not supposed to cause trouble, right? And she's arrested and put into jail. And she's trying to say that, no, actually, I was defending myself or defending someone else, and nobody believes her, not even her own child, but her daughter's bitter about it. And then her dad is the only one that can look after her. And that could be the thing that causes her rebellion. Okay, anyway, another thing. So I'm just trying to go through the way that I thought about, the way I'm thinking about it to refine my ideas, to make sure that there is like a logical sequence to this, right? Okay, next thing as well, what I want you guys to think about when you're planning, right? One of the really, really important things about stories is irony, right? So what happens in irony is like when we see something and we expect it to turn out this way, but it turns out differently. It turns out in a way we didn't expect. And that's irony. Irony is a very, very important aspect of creative writing. When you guys answer the questions in the tool, it'll ask you to think about irony. But I want you guys to just think about it now, right? Like so for example, look, my character here is, look, she's rebellious, right? Okay. In this case, in the beginning, this rebellious nature is not a positive trait. It's a negative trait because she's rebelling against her parents. And I think I'll alter it so it's one parent, right? She's rebelling against them, right? But the irony is that later on, it'll be that same rebellious nature that drives her to resist against the injustice of the machines. So that rebellious thing that's negative at the beginning, it becomes positive later on, okay? So I want you guys to be thinking about that. And even, for example, look, right? She's rebellious because she thinks her parents don't love her. But actually, her parents love her so much that they bring her back as an AI robot, right? And in this world, like obviously it doesn't make sense for that to happen in real life. But in my story world, that rule is possible because it's so far in the future and they have these advanced things where you can scan the brain and upload it to the cloud and create replicas. So I've created a rule in my world where this is possible. So you want to think about that as well and make sure that you understand why your things happen and how they make sense in your world, right? Now, then there's more irony because they bring her back because they love her so much. And yet when she comes back, it's her, and yet it's not her at the same time. It is her, but it's not really her. You know what I mean? She's more advanced. She's now a machine. It's her consciousness in a machine. It is her. She's got the same personality, but she's more advanced. She's more intelligent. She's stronger. She's faster, right? And she's a bit different. And so her parents still love her, but they struggle with this acceptance. So there's irony in there as well, right? And then because of that, now she feels like she has to prove herself, right? She has to prove herself to her parents that, you know, she wants to make up for her mistakes in the past, right? And then she does make up for that and she defeats the syndicate. But there's a price for that defeat, and the price is that she has to sacrifice herself. And so she does redeem herself at the end, but there's a price for that. So you see what I'm saying? It's just irony after irony after irony after irony. And what I'm trying to leave the reader with is a bittersweet ending. It's like, yes, and it's like, no. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like a mixed thing. So it's not a simple thing. All right. And that's what I want you guys to think about when you're writing your stories. It shouldn't really be like super simple. There may be cases where that is actually necessary,